is devoted to his family and his music, but there is one corner of his mind, as there is for many of us, where the Beatles are still playing. There's a kind of joke people in our generation hear from younger people, and I've heard it a lot living in New York, and that is, oh, Paul McCartney, he was in a band before Wings.
I know that's not so much a joke, you know. The younger kids, it's true, the younger kids just don't know anything about the Beatles. And there was a time when I remember people sort of saying, you know, I wonder if there will ever come a time when people just don't know who the Beatles were. In fact, you know, I don't mind that. I think it's actually quite reassuring that there are, like, new people coming up all the time who are completely fresh and who you've got to impress again. I like that, actually. Because with things like Wings, the older generation of people, my generation, and, you know, around my age, would probably have had the same thought that I would have had, which is like, how are you going to follow the Beatles? It's virtually impossible. You know, they're such a famous band and such a tight-knit group when we were cooking that virtually impossible to just go and make a new band and have some success, especially when you get a wife in on keyboards and crazy moves like that. So, you know, that's what reassures me, is that, like, the young people come up and they don't have those old prejudices against, oh, it's not as good as the Beatles. In fact, you know, some of them say, was he in another group? It's amazing.
In preparing for this interview, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a well-known musician, who said that he felt one of the greatest things that was overlooked during the whole Beatle era was your excellence as a guitarist. Do you feel in any way that that was overlooked?
No, it's only really people who are kind of connoisseurs who know that I play guitar in the Beatles, because I didn't really want to play it up, because it was embarrassment really between George and I, because George was actually like the official lead guitar player in the group, and then John would be the kind of second lead, and so they both played lead. But when we started off, we all had guitars. I actually ended up sort of getting lumbered with bass because our bass player left. Certain people since have sort of said, oh, I pushed him out to get the prize position as bass player. Bass player was a lousy position in a group. It was the fat boys that played bass. You know, it's like, oh. And they stood on the edge of the stage, and all the kind of the hip, slim guys came up front and went, and so I didn't really want to play bass at all. And I did play guitar, and I still do. So, yeah, one or two solos I played on. One or two George maybe either couldn't get much of an idea of what to play, or I had a very definite idea, so I'd sort of say, do you mind if I play this one? There's a little bit of friction. It caused a little bit of friction at the time. I think, you know, George may be thinking I was usurping his role.
One of the things that you have said in the past that you were sorry about was the Beatles' reaction to John and Yoko's love. Would you, if you're willing to, talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm getting a little easier on myself these days. You know, when all that happened, I did feel very, oh my God, oh, I've stepped on someone's toes. Nowadays, I think, well, wait a minute, come on. I mean, you know, just me growing up, like they were growing up. And looking back on it, I didn't really do so much to hurt people. I think I've tried to remember what it was that was so hurtful, you know. I think one of the things that John said was so hurtful was that I told the world the Beatles had broken up. Big deal. I mean, you know, I don't think that's that hurtful. So like I say, you know, I think it's starting to come out that we were kind of regular people, that we did love each other. I mean, I definitely, no doubt about it, thought John was a really great person. And he was one of my heroes, you know, so it was great to be in a group with him. And he still is. I don't expect to ever work with anyone as talented as him again, but he went through a lot of problems. And when he was going through those problems, when he was going through his primal scream therapy, he lashed out at everyone, and he screamed at everyone, and I was in the front line. I mean, there's a thing recently, they're auctioning, they're always auctioning stuff. There's a thing that's just come out, which is some pamphlet, which John wanted to suppress. It was supposed to be a promotion thing about the group. But it didn't have a lot of photos of him and Yoko, for instance. Now, looking back on that, I think, well, that figures. She wasn't in the group. Now, I'm not being mean, but she wasn't in the group. I mean, in actual fact, you think of it, the fact that she was in Let It Be, sitting on the amps. I mean, for most groups, most people would have just downed tools and said, no way. You know, unless she joins the group, unless there's a... But we, in a way, we were quite receptive, really. We didn't understand it, and it seemed strange to us. And when they went nude on the record cover, like everyone else, it was a little bit of a shock. But I think we were reasonably receptive to it. It would have been nicer to have been completely receptive, but nobody's perfect, you know. But looking back on it, I give myself less of a hard time these days with it, because I think I didn't do so bad. I mean, I didn't do so much to hurt people, really. I don't go around trying to hurt people.
In the early days, you said you had working-class dreams. Those have obviously been realized. What are the kinds of dreams you still have now?
I have plenty of dreams, really. I basically have the same dreams I ever had. To write a good song. I still, you know, no matter how many songs you've written, you still want to write the one that just blows your mind. So I still have a lot of ambitions in that area. I'll tell you the truth of the matter is, actually, I always remember the answer to this question in the car on the way home. That's the ambition. Because I got millions of them. But, you know, some people say, what's left? That's what they always say. Paul, what's left? Not a lot. You know, but, like I say, you know, I just like doing it.